Hey guys. Okay, so this week's video is actually inspired by a conversation that I had with a builder yesterday. Now, I have ummed and ahed about whether I actually want to record on this topic because I think the very real risk is that I'm going to come across as like a negative Nelly or a Debbie Downer, and that is not what I'm about. However, I have decided to just go for it because I think there is so many people out there just wasting unnecessary time, energy, and emotion going down this path. And if I can try and get this information across to them sooner rather than later, we can hopefully, even if it risks or means that I come across as a negative Nelly, save people some of that pain. So, what do I want to talk about? Well, I've had this conversation with so many professionals recently. I'm talking certifiers, building designers, builders, etc., etc. Now, this conversation always pans out exactly the same. So, they jump on the phone to me. Usually it's in response to like a job, so they're checking in on a job, or sometimes it's just to have a general chitty chat. And the conversation starts with, how's business going? I sit there and I say it's going crazy at the moment. We kind of feel like the pre-Christmas rush has already hit us, etc., etc. Pretty standard. Then from there it evolves into, okay, so where do you think things are going to go in the future, in particular as we start to progress towards the Olympics? So then we end up talking about it and we tend to agree the fact that probably the next maybe 2, 3 to 5 years is going to be a bit of a sweet spot because builders have relatively stabilised, prices have relatively stabilised, interest rates have relatively stabilised. Stabilized is what I'm trying to say. So there's a bit more consumer confidence there. People are also looking to the future and seeing the investment within the Brisbane area here and going, okay, I think we can pump a bit more money into our properties because our property is going to go up, etc., etc. So yeah, the next probably 2 or 3 to 5 years, we're going to see this kind of continued boom period going on in the renovation type space in particular. However, everyone tends to agree once you get beyond that, as you start to get within probably 5 years of the Olympics, it's going to go to absolute chaos. So the government is going to be forced to just throw any amount of money at the trades out there and the materials out there and all of that sort of stuff because they've got deadlines they can't ignore. They have to be open by the opening ceremony and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to get kind of into this bidding war out there. And the residential market, unfortunately, is not going to be able to keep up with the government prices. They're not going to be able to secure the trades, all of that sort of stuff. So in that 5-year period leading into the Olympics, it's just going to be absolutely mental. Now, the conversation I have with people typically veers off in two different directions here. Number one, they either sit there and go, oh, COVID period, I can see what's coming on the future. Like these, over the last few years, clients have just gone crazy. Everyone is extra stressy, extra angsty. Like everyone out there has got a builder locked in for tomorrow, and if they don't do it tomorrow, it's going to fall apart type thing. Like I had 2 of those inquiries this morning and I was just like, oh, you and everyone else. So yeah, people are kind of sitting there just going, I've had to deal with the stress, the pressure, the angst, the extra amplification of the stress, pressure, angst, etc., over the last few years. I can see it's only going to get worse in the next few years. Like, I just don't know if I have it in me. I think I need to come up with an alternate income stream. Or, so that's the first pathway they sort of deviate on. Or they go, okay, hold on a sec, in 5 years' time, I can see things are just going to absolutely screech to a halt because people aren't going to be able to afford to build. Generally speaking, me as a town planner and building design professionals out there, we're like, yeah, we're going to get a little bit more out of this before it hits us. But builders and certifiers, you guys are definitely going to feel it, I think, sooner. So yeah, then people start to go, okay, hold on a sec, I can see the income's going to dry up in that period. I need to come up with an alternate income stream, surprise, surprise, to try and manage my income, expenses at that point in time, etc., etc. Basically, I've got to put food on the table. How am I going to do it during that period? So yeah, the conversation starts the same. It deviates on 2 paths, but then it comes back together to a, how am I going to make more income? Then naturally, everyone turns around and they're like, so, subdivisions. I want to do a subdivision. I want to start flipping these subdivisions. I'm like, yeah, you and everyone else. Like, the honest truth is it is not that easy. If it was that easy, every man and his dog would be out there making sugar loads. I just need to watch my language there. Bucket loads, let's go with that. Bucket loads of money. But it is not that easy. So, the purpose of this video is to hit you with 5 issues, hurdles, factors that you need to consider, whatever you want to call it, when you're looking at subdivisions in Brisbane. So that I can hopefully bring expectations, let's just say, back into reality or the world of reality, so that, as I said at the beginning, people aren't wasting their time and their energy and their emotion just laying in bed at night after the kids have gone to sleep, plotting their next subdivision, or sitting on realestate.com, scouring through, looking for the next subdivision, etc., etc. So the first point you need to know is that subdivisions cost a bucket load of money. Now I recorded a video on this and I'll link it in. I think it was the start of this year, maybe last year, can't quite remember. But in that video, I basically said these days you are looking at an absolute minimum of $150,000 before you can do a subdivision. That is the absolute starting point. If you have like flooding issues, or if you've got to construct a rear driveway, or if you've got trees to remove, or if you've got issues like that, it just goes up and up and up. And that's because you've got to account for things like roughly $33,000, $34,000 in infrastructure charges. You've got to account for connecting the water line, connecting the sewer line, paying for the surveyor, paying for the town planner, paying council's fees. It goes on and on and on. You've got stamp duty, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it costs a lot of money. Number two, you need to understand when it comes to Brisbane, council has very, very clear rules as to what they want to see in terms of minimum lot sizes within each zone. Now, 98% of the time, council is going to stick to those rules. Like, they are super black and white. And if you're buying a property specifically to flip it for a subdivision purpose, you don't want to be taking on a property that's within that 2%. Like, there's just too much risk factor. Just do not go there. You only want to go there if you're super experienced at doing subdivisions and or you're using it as an owner-occupier type premises, you're happy to live there for a few years and you de-risk the situation. De-risk is what I was trying to say there, the situation that way. So yeah, if you want to know what the zoning rules are, go to our link in bio within our Instagram and we have a fact sheet there that talks through, okay, here's the standard residential zones and here's what the minimum lot sizes you need for a subdivision. Really, I'm struggling today, aren't I? Clearly I haven't had enough coffee. What I'm trying to say is it breaks down what the minimum lot size requirements are for a subdivision in each zone. So you need to keep that in the back of your mind, and that needs to be the very first thing you look at when you're reviewing a property to work out whether it has subdivision potential. Because like I said, the chances of being able to go below those lot sizes, super duper slim, and you just do not want to go there if you're buying a property as a rookie to be able to flip. Number three, I had to think about that for a second. Number three is you need to make sure, is there a protected house on that property or can you remove the house? If it's protected, everyone always says to me, oh, we're just going to slide it sideways. You'll find probably 90% of the time that house is too fat to be able to fit onto a block. So typically the houses are like 8 meters in width. No more, usually they're just over 8 meters in width, and you need to have 1 meter clearance between the side boundary and the wall if you're moving it onto a block less than 450 square meters, etc, etc, etc. So yeah, what we find is often people love to go for the CR1 zone sites, which have an old pre-47 house smack bang in the middle, and they're like, oh, we're just going to slide it over, or we're just going to demolish it. Doesn't work that way, guys. Now, number four is, what was I going to say? LPD, lawful point of discharge. So much of the stock out there in terms of properties slopes to the rear. So the stormwater runs to the rear down into the neighbour's property. And in those situations, I've talked about this in a previous video. I'll try and go back and find the actual video where I talk it through in more detail. But essentially, you need to work out how you're going to deal with your stormwater without relying on going through the neighbour's property, unless you can get consent from the neighbour. And most of the time people won't give you consent. Like I said, I'll link in the video. You can check that out to get more information. And then the final thing you need to check is refuse. And this is a growing issue within Brisbane. Like, council's aware of it. They know that it's holding back a lot of developments out there. And basically you need to make sure that you have space within your projected property boundaries. So go both side boundaries, extend them forward into the road. Within that forward projected area, you need to make sure that you have enough space to accommodate 2 rubbish bins, so a general refuse bin and a recycle bin for each allotment, without clashing with any street trees, driveways, all of that sort of stuff. So the rubbish truck needs to be able to come along, pick up the rubbish bins, put it down without clashing with driveways, trees, and all of that sort of stuff. And I've seen so many situations recently, in particular like cul-de-sacs or rear lot subdivisions, or situations where there's a lot of driveways close together, all of that sort of stuff, where this has literally become the make or break issue. Now, how am I going time-wise? I've got a little bit of time, so I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. Yesterday when the builder called me, he raised a particular site. As soon as I brought it up on the aerial photo, I was like, oh dude, I've looked at this before. Refuse, it's a deal breaker. Like, there's no point looking at anything else because you physically cannot get your refuse bins in there for collection. And he's like, oh, but I heard they got a subdivision in, or they got subdivision approval. And I was like, well, this is awkward. I'm about to look like an idiot, aren't I? Well, let me just jump on Development Eye and let me have a quick look at this thing. So jump on Development Eye. Sure enough, an application was lodged a little while ago. And sure enough, there was then an information request where council shredded the access/refuse requirements and then magically the application was withdrawn. So I had a bit of a laugh to the builder and I was like, look, I'll give you a bit of an insider tip here. If someone gets an information request and it's a lengthy information request and all of a sudden the application gets withdrawn, it means they went running for the hills. They saw the writing on the wall and they went, you know what, we are out. This is not going to be approved. So yeah, sad for them because I actually do think it's a good site to develop. But I looked at it and went, at least I was right. At least I'm not like sitting here with egg on my face looking like an idiot right now. So yeah, refuse, do not underestimate it. It is becoming one of the biggest bugbears for us. It potentially at some stage is probably going to trump LPD, Lawful Point Discharge, in terms of being one of the biggest restrictors for development here in Brisbane. So anyway, moral of the story, let's wrap this up. The moral of the story is I do not want to come across as like a negative Nelly, Debbie Downer, all of that sort of stuff. But the cold hard truth, the reality is that very few people make the bucket loads of money that people seem to think through subdivisions. Is there money to be made? 100% there's money to be made. But you kind of need to differentiate yourself from the rest. So the ones that I see out there that are making money are not the ones that are competing with the mum and dad homeowners in the 1 and 2 lot subdivision space. So those people who can find ways to work around the capital gains tax, who can offset things like stamp duty and insurance as cost of living type pricing and all of that sort of stuff. So they have more ability, let's just say. Move my hands, hopefully the words will come to me. More ability to write off or justify those additional costs, whereas you guys coming in and doing the flips to be able to make profit don't have that luxury. So yeah, those people that are moving up into the bigger space, or it's the best way to say it, moving up into the bigger space, are avoiding those sort of that competition, let's just say, and or the people that are investing a bucket load of time and energy into learning. So doing the courses out there, the education, all of that sort of stuff over years and years. Like I always say to people, town planning is one teeny tiny part of the process. Like when it comes to subdivision, town planning is like this much. There is so much to know and get your head around and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's the people who invest that time and energy into learning who tend to have the higher chance of success. So can you make money? 100% you can, but don't naively go in and think, oh, you can just find a property tomorrow, you can flip it and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars instantly, because it just does not happen that way. So yeah, hopefully people can take that information on board and, like I said, start to approach this thought process with a little bit more understanding. What's the word I'm looking for? Caution. That's a better word. A bit more caution, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.